as the company evolved, I spend a lot more time on the career path, not picking a major, because if you pick a career path, the major falls out of it.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Kristen. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Before we jump into your business, do you mind telling the audience a little bit about yourself, who you are, and where you come from?
Hi, Ken. Yes. So my name is Kristin Clark, and I am the CEO and founder of College Planning Untangled, where I help high school and college students figure out a career that they can love. And, I spent 20 plus years in corporate America running marketing departments and saw a lot of people loving their work and a lot of people not loving their work. So it got me really interested in helping other people figure out how to have a career that they can really go to and enjoy on the regular. And when I first started thinking about getting into this career, my boys were getting ready to go to college. And it kind of led me down the path of helping those people that are just starting out their career so that they can get a jump start and know from the get-go, what careers that they can love and the reasons why.
Right. So, and the high school counselor just isn't, the high school, college, and college counselor just aren't enough for that?
Well, Ken, here's the little hidden secret. Your high school, actually, it's probably not all that hidden for people that are going through this high school and college planning process. All of your high school counselors and your college consultants, their job is to get these kids into college. Right. They're really not spending any amount of time helping the kids figure out why they want to go and what they want as an end result. And I saw that as a huge gap. So as you know, for an entrepreneur, when you see a gap and something that needs to be filled, it's like, wow, let's take advantage of that niche and really focus some attention there.
Right. High school was, for me and a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, a miserable experience as far as the educational structure and all of those things. So I was super lucky. I had some great counselors, some great teachers that kind of helped me on my path, but I definitely found it odd that for me, I always knew what I wanted to do. It was never a question about what I wanted to do, and I was just going to go do the things that I wanted to do. But a lot of my friends were, floundering, for lack of better words, just floundering in what they wanted to do, right? And I think a lot of them probably ended up in careers that aren't very well suited for them, right?
Well, first off, we bow to people like you because so few people really have that just innate sense of what they want to do. There's so many students that I see a few different things that are happening. Either they have so many ideas, they don't know what to pick. They have no idea what they want to do, or you get the few like you that knew exactly what they wanted to do, and a lot of them very early in life. And, sometimes the ones that know exactly what they want to do, especially launching into college, that can actually be the most stressful type of student as a parent, because if that doesn't work out,
it's all failure.
Well, yeah, right. And you know how this is these days. I don't believe that we allow our kids to fail enough, and having some failure in your life is good. But when they have this, I know exactly what I want to do, and they get into college, and let's say they can't get into the program they want to get into, or they get in and they're like, ooh, that's not what I thought it was at all. That could be a scary place to be. But
right.
I go back to, it sounds like you figured yours out right early on and have succeeded at that.
There's been lots of ebbs and flows through the whole thing for sure. But so let's just talk way different today than when I was a kid. Like growing up, getting out of high school, finding a job, it was a scarcity world for employment, right? And I went to film school, so getting a film job was like next to impossible. But today is a totally different world than 20, 30 years ago. You said something about, they have a lot of opportunity. how many kids out of high school today are making, and I think it's a mistake to take the easy path and just settling in on an Uber, kind of job, right? Because you don't have to ask for employment anymore. You can just install an app and start working.
You can. And there are a lot of opportunities out there. I mean, you think about it, how many new jobs are out there right now that weren't available when we were going through college.
Right.
You're right. Today, you can figure out what you want to do and make it happen. And I think it's never been so prevalent. But I would also tell you that I think as parents, sometimes we hold our kids back from trying some of these neat new things because for us, it is new and it's risky. I think that we've got a huge opportunity to let our kids just let them talk and flow and come up with something that they want to do and let them fly. I really feel like we hold them back sometimes.
Today has never been a better time than just to have your own individual brand and do the thing that I've got a 15-year-old daughter and she wants to be an artist and I can't for the life of me believe that I'm telling her go for it. Like just start painting and videoing it and have a good time and enjoy your life and figure it all out, which, when I was a kid, that would have been absolutely frowned upon. No doubt about it. Right. But today it's totally a career path. Is that
and
something?
It is.
How many kids coming out of high school today are, I'm going to be a YouTube or a TikTok star?
And
then as a counselor, are you telling them you're crazy, don't do it? Or are you like leaning in and like, hey, it's totally possible, kid, go for it?
No, I will tell you my whole job, and I let parents know this before the kids work with me, is figure out what you love and let's talk about it. And a big part of that is saying it out loud and getting it out of your body and seeing how it feels when you say it. And, like for your daughter, I'd say, yeah, I mean, why would you not encourage that? Because, I think we have this small vision of what art can be or being creative can be. Think about all the jobs out there that you can now, explore and have fun with. And, like I was an art major, by the way. So you cracked me up when you said, oh my gosh, why would we ever let anybody do that? And, it's funny back then when I was in art school, Ken, it was probably went to the University of Iowa, liberal arts college, got my degree in art. And it was probably one of the better decisions I made because I really loved being around that atmosphere. And I remember one day on campus, back then we had our books that we went and we read all the classes. And I remember reading one that said interior design. And I remember the thought that went through my head, and it was, what idiot takes that class? And time just kind of stood still. And I remember it was like everybody was whizzing past me, and I was standing there looking at that book. And then I closed the book, put it in my backpack, and I moved on. And I was like, man, now if I could look back, I really wish I would have had somebody that I could have talked to say, what does that truly look like? What do they mean by interior design? Because back there in my kid head, you only know what you know.
Right.
And in my head, it was designing interiors for homes, which I was like, and growing up in the middle of Iowa, there weren't, in my little world, a lot of people that were spending money to decorate their homes. Now, I live in Texas now, that's changed, right? I live in the Dallas area and lots of people pay for that. But in my head, it was like, who's going to pay me for that? And if I could look back, I really feel like I'd probably be designing interiors for corporate type offices. I think that would have been maybe my calling, but I didn't have anybody to really talk to, or I didn't know who to talk to. And I think that's really what spawned this idea for me is, when I kind of look back and thought about my career, and I was like, man, if I would have had somebody, that would have been the game changer.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you work with the kids, and one of the things that you say right out of the gate is find what you love, right? And then come and let's talk about that. I think I've got, I talk to entrepreneurs every day, and I am one. Why is that so important? Or can you define to us what it means to you, do what you love, and you never work a day in your life? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so many things go through my head. So I think it really starts with figuring out what interests you. And I hear all the time from, and it's usually the dads, that they'll go, Kristen, really at 16, 17, 18 years old, you can figure out something that you love and do that as a career. And the reality is, yes, these kids are doing it every day. So, I love that we have that perception, and it kind of goes back to, I think, where as parents, we don't trust these kids enough to have these conversations and, get them talking. But yeah, it starts with, what are you interested in? Do interests change? Absolutely, they do. But if you start there, you can get a kid excited about their future. And where the kids are today, what I see overwhelmingly is they're overwhelmed and afraid about making a bad decision. And I kind of talk to them and go, listen, this is about you. Don't worry about what mom wants, what dad thinks you should do, what grandma June, throws down at you and says, you should be a lawyer. I'm like, that's not their decision. It's your decision. So let's start with something that you can get excited about, right? And then I help them layer in their natural talents, which I use the CliftonStrengths program, which we can talk about in a little bit. So what that assessment does is it helps you understand those things that you do innately. They're God-given talents that, when you're doing those, you get energized and excited about doing. And we marry all that stuff as well as your skills. Are you better at math, science, reading, lunch? What are you good at? And from that, what I look for, Ken, is patterns. If I keep hearing the same types of things or can connect the dots for the kids, and I'll give you an example of that. I was working with a kid, his name's Noah, and he's like, Kristen, he goes, I'm really creative and I want to use that creativity, but I also love to build things. And I said, great. Now I said, what do you love to do? He goes, oh, we talked about a lot of things, but to make the story short, one of the things was playing golf. And he's like, any waking moment that I get a chance to play golf, that's what I want to do. And lastly, one of the things he told me, he goes, I absolutely don't want to be in an office and chained to a desk every day. That's not what I want to do. And what we talked about is, I was like, Noah, what if you could be around the golf world all the time? He goes, well, Kristen, I'm not that great of a golfer. He goes, I do okay, but I'm not that great. And I said, well, but you enjoy the atmosphere, right? He goes, oh my gosh, yes. I love being in the pro shop. I love being in the restaurants around there, love golfing, love just talking about it, right? I said, what if you could design golf courses where you design them, watch the building of them, you can be around that atmosphere and you don't have to be in an office every day. You get to have a mix. And he's like, oh my gosh. He goes, Kristen, do you think that'd be too much of a good thing? I said, I sure hope so. And yes. Yeah. And so it's really just having the conversations, Ken, because I just don't think that we sit down and we do this enough, having that open conversation and having the kiddos feel like they can have the open conversation and not hear the no's. And I think that's key.
Yeah, getting rid of the negativity is a huge piece of it, and understanding that in today's world of abundance and it's wildly abundant, there's really anything you want to do, you can kind of find a career about it. I like sitting in a bar and having conversations. This isn't exactly sitting at the bar, but it's the next best thing for me, right? So I found a way to do that for myself and share that with a bunch of other people. So there's always a way to find what you love to do and do it. It doesn't mean that you don't have to ever balance a checkbook and do stuff that you don't like doing. It just means that your day is pretty fulfilled on most days doing the core thing that you really like doing. So
exactly. Yeah.
Kristen, what is the name of the company?
The name of my company is College Planning Untangled.
College Planning Untangled.
Yeah. And part of it stemmed from, like I said, when my boys were getting ready for college and I realized that all of these people out there trying to quote unquote help them, their job was to get them in. And so it was really around this idea of picking a major and picking a career path. And, as the company evolved, I spend a lot more time on the career path, not picking a major, because if you pick a career path, the major falls out of it. Right. So yes. As this whole thing evolved, I got closer to a lot of the stats on kids and going to college and their fears and their hopes. And one of the things that stood out to me, well, a couple things I'll tell you, is 2/3 of the kids find this idea of picking a major the most overwhelming part of planning for college. So what happens is they bury their head in the sand and they don't pick one until they absolutely have to. And a lot of times, again, it comes without a lot of conversation. They just go, well, you know what? Mom was in business. She's really good at it. I'll just do business. Those are a lot of the internal conversation and external conversations that are happening. So I got really excited about going, wow, you know what? We can help them figure this out. And then the second stat, which I think is just craziness, is 30% of our kids that go to college don't return after their freshman year. So that tells me something's really broken. So 1/3 of kids don't return after their freshman year. And it's like, how can we help these kids?
Right.
And think about what, oh, go ahead.
Is there too much emphasis put on the having to decide what your degree is on your freshman year?
I think there's not enough emphasis put on having the discussion about why you're going to college. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, though, because it's kind of the push-pull of this, right? People are like, oh, gosh, go and figure it out as you go. The reality is these kids are getting on campus, and it looks like everybody else has their act together and has it all figured out, and they're the only ones sitting there trying to figure it out, right?
But everybody's posturing.
Oh, my gosh, for sure.
Entire campus.
Yeah. Look at social media. Look at all this stuff, right? Where it's like, wow, they have an awesome life. And then you figure out they're getting divorced and doing all this stuff, right? It's like, everybody looks so awesome. And by the way, we have one of the most anxiety-ridden generations that we've ever seen because of social media and helicopter parenting and all those things that come along with it, that the last thing you should do is send them off to college with just figure it out as you go. you know? Yeah. And not only that, have you looked lately? College costs a whole heck of a lot more money than it did when we went.
Yeah, I'm trying to talk my daughter into just traveling for a year and figuring out what she really wants to do before she jumps in and spends all the money on college, right? But I mean, we've got a lot of great programs. The AA program where they get the first, your associates at no charge, which is great. So do you recommend doing that for kids today, going through the process of just getting their associates and having that and then say, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I have this kind of midway degree.
Yeah, a couple
I've got
things.
My fundamentals.
There are some really cool things that you can do in high school, even where you get dual credit at your local community colleges. So number one, you can figure out, can I handle college and what's it like, and get a feel for it. But then you also have to spend less on college, hopefully, because you've already racked up some credits. Right. I've seen kids go in with 2 years of credits. Now, that's a lot, and it's a special kid, I think, that can do that. But those opportunities are out there, so I think that's really cool. I think, it's funny, parents sometimes are concerned about the gap year because they're afraid that they just won't go. And there are stats behind that too, Ken, where it's like the kids that took a gap year actually do better in college grade-wise. They typically graduate at a higher rate. So I look at it and I go, if your kid's thinking about a gap year, I would definitely, think about that, because maybe college isn't the right route for them. Maybe they're thinking, you never know. And, what people don't realize is, especially when you live in the bubbles, that only 39% of America has a degree. And there are a lot of other people out there that are being successful that have not gone to college. So there's huge opportunity outside of just, a 4-year college. And it really is based on what's right for your kid.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So how long ago did you start this company?
About 3 years ago. Yes, that I decided to do it. And I say full time. I still do some marketing consulting on the side, but my love is truly, with these kids and helping them.
And what were you doing prior to this adventure?
I ran marketing departments in the home security business for, 20 plus years. Yeah.
That's a pretty big jump.
It is a big jump, and I'll tell you what happened. I had shut down a couple home security companies because we got bought by our largest competitor. The largest competitor kept finding my companies and buying them up, which really was not fun at the time. And I was always the person that got put in charge of closing down either the department or the company, which is totally depressing and hard on anybody, right? And especially because it goes on for a long time. So you kind of take a beating on, who you are and what you're doing. And at the time, I had gotten another job running another marketing department for another home security company. And truthfully, shouldn't have been there. Their culture wasn't right for me. Their values weren't right for me. But I was so beaten down at the time, Ken, that I was like, whatever, I'll just take the paycheck and move on, right?
Right.
And a new CEO came in. And as you know, head of marketing is always the first to go. So at about a month in, I got the phone call. And it was funny because I looked back and I smiled the whole way home. And I called my husband and I was like, I just got fired. And he was like, okay, seriously, you sound happy. I'm like, I'm so happy. I hated that job. And quite honestly, probably should have bailed a long time ago. So I found myself in a situation where I was like, okay, now what? If you're hating this, what do you want to do? And I think this is really important for all entrepreneurs to really think about. And at the time, obviously, I was a corporate person. I was networking and I found this lady that had just gotten certified as a CliftonStrengths coach. And CliftonStrengths is through Gallup, by the way, the world-renowned research firm. The assessment's been around for years and years. 27 million people have taken it. So it's an established program. I had never heard of it when she brought it up to me. And I fell in love with it. When she first gave me this assessment, she was reading my results and it was funny. She was looking at them. She goes, oh, okay. And I was like, hey, listen, hold on. This is supposed to be fun. I was like, what are you seeing? And she said, Kristen, you scare people, don't you? And I was like, I do scare people. And, little old me, I'm like, what the heck? What am I doing? She goes, well, let me tell you. And she went on to talk about a couple of my strengths and how they're kind of intense, which totally bought into that. They definitely are. And, but she also helped me understand how I soften those and how to pull my softening skills forward so that, I'm not scaring people. But I was just intrigued by the whole thing because it was one of those where you're like, that is so me. Oh my gosh, they hit the nail on the head. And when I really looked at that, now think about this. We had my kids getting ready for college, me realizing that nobody was helping them figure out a career path, and then me learning about this CliftonStrengths program. And I was like, oh my gosh, talk about three worlds colliding right there. And it took me a little while, to get past the not wanting a paycheck that I could count on. So it took a little leap of faith for me to really dive into this. But once it got started, I couldn't help myself to keep going.
Wonderful. So you took the CliftonStrengths program, and you have a program for entrepreneurs, but you really lean into the finding a career path for kids coming out of high school into college.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about why that happened. When I did start thinking about this, I kept kind of going back in my life and thinking about when would this CliftonStrengths thing help me the most. And I kept going back in time. And it was really that moment on the college campus that I told you about that I was like, man, if that would have been the time that I would have known about my strengths, it would have cleared up a lot of things for me. Because a lot of my strengths are about taking what is, taking something that exists and making it better. And I was like, that would have been really insightful for me to understand that. So I went back in time, and that's where I really focused in on helping students. And that's what I market to most in my business. However, because I spent so much time in corporate and understand that world and I am a new entrepreneur, this program can help anybody. And it's really the same process that I take people through. So yeah, I get parents all the time when I'm talking to them about their kids going, whoa, can you help me? Because I hate my job right now. I'm like, absolutely. And yeah, so it's the same conversation, just a little bit different people in that, in fact, that they've lived a little bit more life. Right. So, and it's fun to listen to them go, I've always really loved this activity at work, but I'm just not getting that. And that's the reason why they were unhappy.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And I can tell you for myself. Oh, go ahead.
So you're a CliftonStrengths coach that focuses on exiting high school, going into college, but you can really do the CliftonStrengths for anybody across the board.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The majority of your Fortune 500 companies, they've been exposed to CliftonStrengths. A lot of them have that as kind of the anchor to their culture, as well as you've got 600 universities across the country that use CliftonStrengths. So this is a program that can be used across many, many different verticals.
Wonderful. And you went and got trained on this program, so now you have a certification in the CliftonStrengths?
I do, and the official term is a Gallup certified strengths coach. So yeah, so I've been out to the Gallup offices, which is totally cool. I love their organization, and one of the things I love about them is one of their mottos is to assume that everybody is working with the best intent in mind, which really kind of mirrors the CliftonStrengths program, because the guy, Don Clifton, that started this program, when he was in college, he was actually studying psychology. And what he noticed is all the great psychologists out there and psychiatrists were trying to figure out what was wrong with people and how to make them right. And he goes, what if we figured out what was right with people and started there? So it's this huge positive conversation about, hey, what are you already awesome at? How do we take advantage of that? And how do we let you do that every day?
And lean into your strengths instead of fixing your downfalls, I guess.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So now, 3 years ago, you're driving home. You just got fired from your job. You're talking to your husband. You got a smile on your face. Is he concerned? What's going through? How's he communicating with you at this point? Like he just lost that income coming into the family, right?
Yeah, the good news is I've got a pretty good husband, actually, when you ask me that question, now that you say that, because he was like, figure it out, man. Get it done. Yeah.
So he was supportive along the whole time. And then how long was it from leaving the job, making the decision, hey, we're going to start this company and do this thing. Now you don't have a job, but you got to make an investment. You got to pull cash out of the family household so that you can go get more education to do this new adventure. How long was it from losing your job? I'm assuming you had some severance package with no paycheck coming in.
Yeah. So, and that actually, Ken, was about 6 years ago. My husband and I got into he had lost his job at one point too, due to a sale. And I looked at him and I was like, what if we started a business together? So the first thing, and this was right after I had discovered strengths and all that good stuff, but I was still looking at a franchise, because in my mind, coming out of a corporate situation, a franchise looks safe, right? And got into this franchise.
Anything that looks safe is probably a trap.
Yes. And yes. Yeah. Well, one of the things we figured out fast is my husband is not an entrepreneur. He is much more of a sales guy, but likes, structure and all of that good stuff. So that franchise program that we started ended up being my baby. And I will tell you, I've never gone into this business, any of these businesses, wanting to work on my own. Okay. I've always been, I'm so much better as a team. And so after a little while, I was like, man, I don't see this thing just doing what I thought it would do in the first place. So we ended up just backing out of that and giving it back. And that was after about 2 years. And I'll tell you, I had taken that and was actually one of the most successful franchisors or franchisees coming out of that system. for their first year. So the revenue that I had produced that year was one of the highest that they'd seen. But I just didn't see the future. And I was like, and it was a mobile gym business. And I thought I'd have a lot more exposure to my trainers and a lot more exposure to my clients. And I just didn't, it just wasn't a good fit. So there was a couple of reasons, not a good fit. And I just didn't see the long-term gain that I had expected.
Right.
Yep. So yeah, we backed out of that. And he goes, why are you doing this anyway? He goes, you love the CliftonStrengths program. You love working with these students. Do that. And let's get rid of this business. So he helped me, just kind of figure that out and move forward.
Wonderful. And if there's somebody out there today and their kids getting ready to, or they're out of high school right now, right? We're in the summer of 2022, going into their senior year. When should we start thinking about this for our kids?
I see the sweet spot as junior and senior year in high school. And then I have a lot of students, freshman and sophomore year in college, where they're in college and they realize, I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help.
Right.
And Ken, what I see is that, it's when they know that they need the help is the best time to get the students in this, because they've got to do the work,
right.
And I jokingly say this, but I'm like, they've got to be scared enough that they're going to say, I need the help. Yes, Mom, please sign me up for that extra class. So it's really about that. And I've been pleasantly surprised, though, that once the students get into it, that they report back to their parents where they're like, yeah, I kind of enjoy going. And
wonderful.
Yeah, which is huge praise from a teenager, right? It's like, right. Yes, thank you. I kind of enjoy going to that class. But a big part of it is they're talking about themselves. Right. And they realize they don't know how to navigate through that. So they're learning, and they're really starting to embrace who they are, which is a ton of fun to watch.
Yes. All right. So as business owners and entrepreneurs, a lot of us, I know that I would love it if my daughter took over one of our companies and ran it when she got older. Highly unlikely. It's like, 20% of companies go into second generation. So it's important for business owners to make sure that their kids, if they're not going to follow their path, they get a good education, they follow a good path, or maybe not even good education, maybe just the right education for them, right? Whatever good means today. If somebody's in that boat today and they've got a kid and they want to send them through your program and they want help with that, how would they get in contact with you?
The best way is just going to collegeplanninguntangled.com.
Collegeplanninguntangled.com. And we'll throw that right at the bottom. But you also help entrepreneurs and business owners. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is because I know we've got a lot of people that want to start a business, or they're in business today. What do you do for the business owner today?
Yeah, so this is huge, Ken, because a big part of running a business, as you know, you're wearing, and this is such an old cliche, but it's true, you're wearing a ton of hats.
Yeah.
You are doing everything. And I can tell you, like for me, when I was running marketing departments, I was really good at pointing my fingers and telling people what to do. When you're in business for yourself, guess who you're pointing at? You're pointing at yourself, right?
Yeah.
And what the CliftonStrengths program can help entrepreneurs do is figure out those things that they're good at. Like execution is not, those execution themes are not at the top of my list. I'm not a great executor. So I need to have people around me that can get things done, or I need to figure out ways that I can put executing type activities into small buckets so that I can get them done. All right. And this isn't about, we can all, like you said earlier, we all have those jobs that we have to do, right? It's how do you use your strengths to make those happen? And, I will tell you this, I noticed the reason I hated that last job that I had that I told you about is when I moved into my VP positions, I decided that I needed to be this great strategic mastermind. Guess what? I'm not. That's not my strength. Okay.
Right.
I am really good at getting people to move forward quickly, get along, get things done together. That's what I do well. And when I decided I needed to just be this great strategist, it literally, I was going to the doctor. I'm like, there's something wrong with me. I'm so fatigued all the time. I'm tired. I don't want to get up and go to work. And by the way, I love working. I've always loved working. And my husband would be like, you have to get out of bed and go to work. And I was like, just give me 5 more minutes. And that I was like that. He's like, who are you? What is wrong with you? And the doctors were going, Kristen, you're fine. Everything's great. I don't know what your problem is. Well, what I figured out is I was working within my lower talents. And that took me, taking this CliftonStrengths assessment to go have the aha moment to go, oh my gosh, strategy is not your jam. So quit trying to do that, right? So what I've done, Ken, is I've surrounded myself with people that are high in strategy, because when I talk to them, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out this problem in my work. They're like, oh, that's easy for me. And they'll say something that's so ingenious to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly right. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to move forward and get it done and talk to people and all that good stuff that I do well. So I don't have to do those activities. Right. And that's the beauty of strengths, is it's not only knowing what you do well, but it's also knowing what other people do well and leaning on them for that activity.
That is so insightful. To do work on don't do the work that you're not good at, or I guess you have to do it sometimes, right? But if you're in a job that doesn't fit your sweet spot, and you're forced to do work all the time that's not in your sweet spot, it's going to drain you.
It's absolutely going to drain you. But let me be clear in my communication on that. I was the one that decided I needed to be the great strategic mastermind. Nobody else was telling me I needed to do that, right? It was all me. And which was interesting, because people are like, yeah, but Kristen, think about this. If you went to your boss as a VP and you told them that you weren't great at strategy, would have they wanted you? And I was like, listen, that's not what brought me to the party.
Right.
I got these promotions doing what I do well. So it's really having that realization and then going, okay, what would have been the outcomes for that? I could have gotten a business coach and done very well. That was high in strategy. I could have talked to my boss and said, you know what, I need help in these areas, but once we figure that out, I'm going to take you faster than anybody else can take you to get there.
Right.
So it's really, but you have to have that language, and you have to know how to communicate it and how to ask for the things that you do well. And
as VP, you should be able to hire somebody, right? You should be able to hire your gaps.
Absolutely, that too.
We all have gaps, and I think as executive management or owners of businesses, you think you're not allowed to have gaps in your talent pool, and you absolutely do. Like, we all have. My gaps are as big as the planet, I'm sure, right? And I have a lot of great people on my team to help me get through those things. So, congratulations on seeing that and executing on what is now your new recipe for a business, right?
Yeah, and that's where it's important, and especially I would tell you, like, for entrepreneurs and people that do have partners, this is such a great program there, in that they can figure out what each person does well and divide and conquer, and not like decide what you should do based on being nice to each other or thinking that they're going to want to do that. The reality is, I'm going to go back to, I'm not great at execution. I'm not great at strategic. I love doing the things where I'm working with people and getting to do that stuff. Well, in my mind, when I have to ask somebody to execute, then I was like, oh, sorry, you're getting the crap job. Well, the reality is they love the crap job in my mind. They love that execution. Right. So it's not a crap job to them, and on the strategic thinking part, they love doing that and they're awesome at it. And that's where they get energized. So it's kind of going, you know what, just because you don't like it, the other person will. And how do you divide and conquer? And you can use this to figure that out.
It's huge. If you put the right people on the right jobs, if they love doing it, you have great outcomes generally. Sometimes shit goes sideways, but that's a whole different ballgame.
Right?
You got to deal with that. So, if an entrepreneur or business owner is out there and they wanted to do work with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So I also have KristenClark.com. And you can get to my programs with either one of those companies. But KristenClark.com, I've got the CliftonStrengths Kickstart program that they'll want to check out, where I sit down with you. I take you through your Clifton strengths, not only the things that you're good at, but the areas of weakness, so that you can try to either manage to those or find people that can fill those gaps. So that is the very first thing that I would tell you to do is, get on my calendar and let's get you through your strengths so that you understand you and you can use that language to explain what you're good at.
Wonderful. Kristen, thank you so much for your time today. Do you have anything else that you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I just say, you know what, Ken? Life is way too short. And, you spend way too much time at your work. And if you're not loving every minute of it, you need to just recalibrate.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to make a change, right? If that, whatever change that is, it might be a big change, leaving your job. It might be a small change, just going to your boss and say, hey, I really don't like this activity. It's draining me every day. Is there some way that we can automate it or give it to somebody else and put me on work that I'm better at?
And here's the way you're going to get the best of me by
Right.
asking me to do these types of things. Yeah, it's getting that language that's hugely important.
Awesome. Kristen, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ken.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.